Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm Nick Mercer. This is episode 63. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Okay, Edina, right? Edina?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm recording now. So just tell us about Concussion U of T and what's it called? The U of T Concussion Legacy Foundation?
Yes, yeah. So the Concussion Legacy Foundation of Canada has an initiative where they have chapters at different universities, and these chapters are called, the name is Team Up Against Concussions. And so essentially our goal is to provide free 30-minute concussion education sessions to sports teams and schools in our community. So it's really a great initiative on the Concussion Legacy Foundation's part, in that they get to get exposure in different communities, and then it's student volunteers that are presenting the concussion. So the students, like high school students, for example, they get to relate and meet university students that are interested in concussions, and oftentimes have had concussions themselves as well. So a lot of the members in the chapter that I lead, they've had concussions themselves often, so they can really relate to the information that they're presenting and share their own stories. And it's really a great way to get the word out there, because I mean, as you know, we all know in the concussion community, it's still not, people just don't know, and it doesn't get as much exposure as it should, and people don't take it as seriously as they should. So yeah, essentially what we do is we go out to schools in the Greater Toronto area, as well as sports teams, and we do these 30 or 40-minute presentations. Some of our presentations, we kind of gear it to the age group. So there's basic concussion information, as well as information on return to play protocols. But if we have an older group, we might include some information on CTE as well, especially for groups that we know are perhaps more interested in pursuing science later in life. So we try to taper it to who our audience is. But something that's great as well is we've also had interest from teachers or adults. So we've had members do presentations for at staff meetings, which is really great, because then they take that information and hopefully they pass that on to their students.
So what's the youngest group you've talked to?
So the youngest I've done
youngest generally.
Yeah, the youngest I've done was at a Montessori school that had like a mixed age group. So the youngest there was probably like grade 1 and 2.
Okay. And obviously didn't really know what to, how did you talk to them? If you're explaining to a 10-year-old or like an 8-year-old, what would you say about concussions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we are taught to kind of present it in an interactive way. So we'll ask the kids lots of questions. So I usually would start with asking the kids, have any of you had a concussion? And does somebody want to explain to me what they think a concussion is? So that's where I would usually start. But we animations as well. So like if you those animations where you kind of see the brain as it hits the side of the scalp.
And the jello one?
The jello, yeah, exactly. So we'll use visuals like that to explain it to younger kids, because of course it is an invisible injury, right? So it is, so I completely understand, especially for younger people, it is really difficult to wrap your head around. But yeah, so basically that would be how I would approach it for younger kids. We'd use a lot of visuals, really have like a conversation with the class, see what they already know, and go from there.
And how did Edina get involved with the Concussion Legacy Foundation in U of T? Was your idea to start up this chapter, or Was there a group
So yeah,
decision?
actually, no, that's a great question. So I'm in the Faculty of Kinesiology at the University of Toronto. So I did learn stuff about concussions. It was something I was very interested in. And then actually, a student named Sabrina, she now lives in Quebec, but she had kind of like tried to bring the chapter to U of T. But before it was really like stabilized, she ended up moving to Quebec. So I offered to take it over, and
Okay.
we went from there. So yeah, we're still fairly new because I know that you have spoken to another director of a team up against
McGill,
concussions now.
yeah, McGill
Yeah,
and Western, and well, heads up Canada's not. Cause like I've talked to Queens as well, but Queens is not in the Concussion Foundation team up chapter that I know of yet. Maybe they are now,
yeah,
and I don't want to speak out of school, but so
yeah. Well, it's actually it's interesting. Actually a lot of Concussion Legacy Foundation chapters. There's actually quite a lot in the US, a couple in
yeah,
Australia, and then we've got a lot in Ontario here because like
yeah.
McMaster has one, like you said, Laurier, Western, McGill, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great, and hopefully it'll grow even more, maybe to more in the other provinces as
Does
well.
do any of the provinces have it, like BC or I know Quebec has McGill, but I mean,
Yeah, I don't know off the very top of my head. I think there might have
Manitoba.
been one in I think there might be one in BC, but I think we don't have any in the prairies or anything.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
and what was gonna? Oh yeah. So what are you doing in faculty of kinesiology?
Oh, sorry, what I was doing?
What do you do in the faculty of kinesiology?
Yeah, so I'm a third year student, so
Okay.
finishing up my third year of undergraduate.
Yeah.
And I feel like in our faculty, concussions are quite recognized, so I'm thankful for that. We have courses that are like solely based on concussions. A couple of electives that people can take. We do have research in our
Nice.
faculty regarding concussions, and then we also have placement. So, for example, I did my placement at Women's College Hospital this past year, but
Where's
some of
that? That's in Toronto, I see.
that is in yeah, that's
Yeah.
in downtown Toronto. And then,
Okay.
for example, one of the other members in our chapter, she did her placement. Also at a Toronto hospital, but in concussion research. So it is quite prevalent in at U of T. I feel like people do tend to talk about it, but I mean, we always want to increase that even more, right? So the
Yeah.
more people know about it, the more people will take it seriously, and hopefully we can
Yeah.
reduce it.
Did you personally have any history with concussions, or do you have any exposure to them yourself?
I'm fairly lucky. I did have one concussion, actually, interestingly, after I joined the
Oh
club.
yeah.
Yeah, but not like I was very lucky, a fairly minor concussion,
Yeah.
not high impact or anything, or not relatively speaking, not high impact. There are some members of our chapter that do have post-concussion syndrome, quite fairly severe post-concussion syndrome actually. So I would consider myself very lucky, but I learn a lot from the people that are still suffering because it just makes me realize how incredibly serious it can be. And I've actually also spoken to teaching assistants who work in my faculty with post-concussion syndrome. And I'm sure you've spoken on many of your podcasts
Yeah.
about your own experience, but it's really, it's tough, right? It's
Yeah.
very, it's a heavy subject because people don't realize how serious it is, and yet it impacts your life every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you guys linked with the concussion clinic or the King concussion collaborative, or whatever it's called at U of
No,
T?
no, not at the moment. We are affiliated with the Concussion Legacy Foundation and also the Toronto District School Board, but not at this moment. No.
So when you do at high schools and stuff, do you talk to all students, or do you talk to just mostly like football teams or rugby teams or soccer teams, or do you talk to just general assembly of students?
Yeah, so we basically leave it up to the school. So I have done
Okay.
presentations for entire schools at in like large gymnasiums. But then sometimes if the teachers can't fit in for all the classes, what we'll do is we'll speak to there's a couple schools in Toronto that have like special kind of streamlined courses for students that do high performance sport. So then we
Okay.
might talk to those students. But something that's really interesting actually is it's so important to speak, I think, to children of different demographics because
Yeah.
for example, I mean, concussions still are not really, not taken as seriously as they should. But in competitive sport, at least the coaches do have, I mean, maybe not a perfect idea of what a concussion is,
Because
but a
they've heard it.
general idea. But we did a couple of presentations actually in a school in a slightly underprivileged area in Toronto and slightly lower socioeconomic status, and I found that a lot of those children they did say, "Oh, you know what? Based on what you're telling me, I think I have had a concussion before, but it wasn't during organized sport. It was like during street play, so maybe like
Yeah.
hockey on
Okay.
like ball hockey or
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
street hockey, stuff like that. So if there wasn't necessarily as much support for them, so opposed to when if there's a coach there,
Yeah.
then the student still has more support that. But if you're just like playing on with your friends and you get a concussion, then I
There's no
mean
trainer.
there's no support.
Yeah.
So it's really concerning. So I think especially for students like that, it's so important that we are able to offer them that knowledge, the knowledge that they deserve to have. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that most when you go to high schools, just generally, do you find that even just so not just sports teams, but for the general audience, do you find that a lot of people say that they've had concussions or they think they may have had one? Do you find that comes a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done a presentation where nobody had a concussion,
Okay.
but I definitely think a lot of them are very honest in that they didn't take it seriously enough or they didn't take
Yeah.
time off. So, yeah, they don't take enough time to rest, but I do think the concussions are, I mean, prevalent in every age group, every school.
And are they willing to talk about it, or are they just or more silent? Want to keep say I'm bad one, it's no big deal, whatever. Don't want to figure out it. It's no big, it's ignore it. But or do they
Yeah,
actually want to talk about what they're
it's
feeling, what they're going through?
Yeah, well, I mean, like some of that because one of the questions that I ask when I do presentations or when we do presentations is what symptoms, like, could you give me some examples of symptoms you may have experienced so we can get the ball rolling there? Because of course, I mean, the variety of symptoms that one can get from a concussion are so variant that makes diagnosis very difficult too. So I always ask
Yeah.
them, what type of symptoms have you experienced? Could be different for you versus your friend. So let's compare, let's contrast. So some of them do talk about it. Sometimes, of course, you have to get them a little comfortable first before. I mean, speaking up in front of your peers can always be daunting, and especially like you say, yeah, if you maybe have like if you feel a bit vulnerable talking about it, of
Yeah.
course. We would never pressure somebody, but
No.
we always ask for volunteers to share their experience if they're comfortable.
So I know I'm right now. Obviously, you're not teaching any schools, but so now is a difficult time to get anybody interested anyway to want to. I mean, I know my podcast is not many listeners. I find people are bombarded with a lot of health news otherwise. So and just another health crisis, whatever they want to call it, like it's concussions are, then that's not really interested to do that now. But what U of T now is? Are you guys are closed or season? Are you doing exams now? Or what's going on with U of T itself? Like your students was.
Yeah, so the University of Toronto, yeah, we are closed. Well, I mean, our school is still going on, so like last night I had a assignment due. I still have another exam. So, yeah, we're still learning. We're still doing our exams, but we are closed. So that does make it, of course, difficult. Any presentations we had
Yeah,
planned,
yeah,
canceled, of course. So after we are going to wait for our exams to be over just so that our members, we can get
yeah,
our exams completed, but we're hoping to maybe do a couple Zoom sessions where we talk about
yeah.
concussion. I know that some of the other chapters actually have support groups. So
I
like
went
post.
to McGill's actually a few weeks ago at the McGill's support group. And the futures them, they're really good. Yeah, they were
Yeah, no,
excellent.
they're incredible. They're really they're definitely like working on getting everything digital and stuff, which is I mean something that we're all just gonna have to come to
Yeah,
terms with and
yeah,
start
exactly.
doing, right? Given the situation.
Yeah. So I mean, but you're playing for for next year, I guess. For you hope for fourth year to start in September, hopefully, just your fourth year, or you don't,
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
not. Yeah, who
I wish I
knows?
could tell you, right? Like
Yeah,
it's so in
exactly.
the air. I'm honestly just preparing for whatever. I mean, I could also see it. Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of the
Yeah.
University of Toronto, but who knows, right? I mean, health has to be prioritized, so maybe we'll be like closed for longer. Who knows?
And what? Well, just for you personally, what time did you pass in last night, and what exam do you have coming up?
Oh, I had a sports medicine assignment due last night, and then I have I'm taking an immunology course, so it's called the Immune
Oh,
System and
right,
Infectious
that's
Diseases.
interesting now.
I know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
very applicable to the news. So that's what I'll be studying for in the next week or so, and then I have that exam, and then I will be done third year. So
Do you
yeah,
study viruses and like recombinant DNA and stuff, or
yeah. So stuff like that. That's
yeah,
definitely some of the topics that are covered.
that's yeah, that's me. Think will there be any coronavirus questions? You think, or do you anticipate?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. It is really a weird like doing everything online is I
yeah,
mean
it's gotta be.
of course we were all online a lot before, but this is unprecedented. And I'm also thinking of when I think of people that might still have post-concussion syndromes,
Yeah,
I mean if screens are a trigger for them, of course, this
yeah,
is like, brutal. So, yeah, it's so I'm that's why one of the reasons why I think it's great that is doing those support groups because like this is a difficult time for everyone. So if you're still suffering from post-concussion syndromes, then I mean the time is even more difficult.
yeah. And the good thing about it also with online, like I was saying, I did that concussion support group with Miguel last week and 2 weeks ago, and both this is now recording on April 10th. Is it? Is it 10th today? Yeah, Friday the 10th. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that with them like last week, 2 weeks ago. But you can also just don't even put on your video and just have your headphones attached to your computer and just turn it away or whatever, and not have video. You can just speak. You don't need to see people to hear them. Like this podcast is not visual, so you can just listen to it. Just like don't no point to turn anything computer screen staring at it just because it's there. If it feels uncomfortable, then don't do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know. Like there's a weird. I did because we did a podcast. Well, I did it last week. That was we put it on Tuesday. We did
Hmm.
it on last Thursday, but with the Brain Injury Canada, and uh, and they talk about coping mechanisms and challenges they have for people with brain injury and stuff, and that's a great thing. And Michelle McDonald, the executive director of Brain Injury Canada, was saying that it's a difficult time for people with brain injury and people have like so obviously the time spending your time you're spending a lot of time alone anyway, and you're spending a lot of time away from
Yeah.
people, and it's just good to be able to get out. Like you don't have any way to vent to get out. Just see people. If you see somebody like maybe you don't get to see people much, but I see them see someone once a week. You can't even do that now. You just gotta
Yeah. It
just
it's so unfortunate, and also, I mean, many people also know that concussions can also have mental health
yeah,
implications. So they are already, I mean, they're already assuming that like the COVID pandemic could already
yeah,
have mental health implications for the general public. So if you're already at a higher risk because you're potentially struggling with symptoms or something, it just amalgamates that the possible risk of mental health problems. So
yeah.
it's definitely important that we keep the support up. The Concussion Legacy Foundation actually is also doing Zoom sessions on
Huh?
Mondays and Fridays for
Nice.
brain health routines.
Is
So
that
if
just for
anybody
you guys
listening,
or anybody? Or just from the big
so
center in Boston, or
yeah, so it is it is a professional from New York City who's actually
okay,
like sharing his expertise, but both the Concussion Legacy Foundation of Canada and the one in the United States is promoting it, but anybody is welcome to email to get the Zoom
yeah,
link, and
great.
Mondays and Fridays weekly they're doing it, so I highly
At
recommend
what
it as well.
do you know what time? Do you know what time, or just Mondays and Fridays?
I know on Friday it's at 3:30, and then I just have to double check for it's Just double checking on the Monday. I don't want to
Yeah,
give you the wrong information.
no worries.
Yeah, but so that's a great opportunity as well. Let's see. Mhm.
Okay,
But yeah,
this just yeah.
it'll be
I'll
interesting to see how everything progresses.
yeah. I'll just either cut out this dead air or let this go and just feel no talking like I'm doing right now randomly, just speaking nothing, saying nothing, but just keeping people interested. And I'm watching CBC now in the background.
Okay.
And yeah, do you see the time there now at all? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I do. So it is okay. So yeah, on Mondays it's at 11 a.m. and then the one on Friday is at 3:30. And it is and I said already that it is expertise from New York City.
Yeah.
But his name is Mr. Ben Velasquez, and he's a corrective exercise specialist. So if
Okay.
any listeners are interested in that, you can email Brooks at concussionfoundation.ca, and he can send you a Zoom link to join for next week if that's something that you're interested in.
I think I actually talked to Jeff Brooks from he went to Western, did his PhD or master's. He was doing his master's when I talked
He
to
did.
Jeff Brooks in like on the episode like 8 or something really early on the men's
Yeah, so
conditions.
I work closely with Jeff. Jeff is what Jeff does for us is he kind of communicates with all the chapter heads. He supports us in our initiatives, advises us, and we have actually monthly conference calls with him as well. So he's great.
Nice.
He's been a great help in setting up the chapters.
And LSU on speaking of that, just help you with recruiting and how do you, or if not, how do you find people to join or to have a sheet like next now is not really the time to talk, but like in normal circumstances, what would you do to get people to alert people to do it? UFT Concussion Next Foundation.
Yeah, so what I actually did is I asked my faculty if they could send out an email on my behalf to all the students in the Faculty of Kinesiology, just to like an email that explained what we did
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what type of numbers we were looking for. And so that's how I did the recruiting. It is difficult, especially if you're trying to recruit in the middle of the year, because I mean,
yeah.
Toronto, we do, we're known for we're hustling a lot. We have a lot of assignments and stuff often. So, but I did get a lot of interest, and it is too bad that the pandemic happened in this regard as well,
Yeah.
because we were really at the stage where we were solidifying everything, and training a lot of new volunteers and everything. But of course, a lot of those types of operations have halted at this point, or just we had to press pause on some stuff like that. But yeah, so we're going to try to go as digital as possible, and otherwise, when things go back to normal, pick up as quickly as possible.
And if things were normal, school year ends April 30th, or
Yes, that's correct.
so
Yeah.
you guys wouldn't do any presentations in May, or did you have any sign down for any for May or June?
Yeah, we were also hoping to do like to present at camps in the summer, or do a couple of camp presentations, like summer camps
Yeah,
for kids, because that's a good opportunity to
yeah.
reach a lot of children as well. But
And
yeah,
they're
again,
out there playing sports and playing games and doing activities that could lead to
yeah,
concussion. Yeah,
exactly. That's so true. And then also U of T actually puts on camps. So the Camp U of T is a popular camp in the city of Toronto. So
but they do that. What do
we
you
were
do there? What's Camp BFT?
yeah. So Camp U of T, it's there are camps at the University of Toronto that are or they're every year. They even have ones in March break as well. So it's yeah, it's basically summer camps or March break camps for
Okay.
children in Toronto, and they do a lot of exercise. They get to use the U of T facilities. So yeah, that's I think probably other universities do
Yeah,
similar
yeah.
things.
I think Memorial here does Memorial University of Newfoundland, where I am. They do that. They do. I went to a few computer and basketball camps when I was younger. And I don't
Okay,
know
cool.
why I went basketball. I'm not very good at it, but I went there. I went there like
Yeah.
twice at yeah, and yeah, so that was back in the day, and yeah, so you were saying so you do that this summer, if of course now if this is normal times, which is not, but you go to camps and present. How many people are in your group? In
Yeah, so we've really grown recently. So we are sitting at about 20 people right now,
nice,
and some of which we were about to train, but of course that
yeah,
didn't, because we do have to train our members on how to present the presentation. We also have within those 20 people, we have a public outreach committee. So those volunteers they email schools and sports teams and try to set up meetings or presentations rather. And then we also have a social media committee. So we're still the social media committee, as well as myself. We're still trying to keep our social media up to date. Of course, we can spread information digitally. And then we also were working on a fundraiser, which was going to be happening in late March.
mm,
But again, that
yeah.
didn't end up happening as well. But that's okay.
Do you have any
We
contingencies for that, or
sorry.
do you have any contingencies for that for your fundraiser?
No, not really. It's just going to be like a fairly relaxed first fundraiser at our faculty. So
Your
but again,
GoFundMe campaign.
yeah, so nothing too big, but yeah, we were just gonna be just raise some money for the group, but that's okay. We'll pick all of that up when things go back to normal, and otherwise
Yeah,
we'll try to
yeah.
spread as much concussion awareness online as we can.
And 20 members, that's pretty good because you guys are brother. As you were saying to me earlier, you're in your still in your infancy, really. And just so I know social media, I just saw you guys on social media recently. So you guys just started your social media campaign, or just started at U of T and started that at the same time. So
Yeah, so we are very new, definitely. Like our Instagram is very new. Facebook's a little older, but we are, yeah, we're definitely still a younger chapter in comparison to some of the other Ontario chapters.
right,
But hopefully we will, grow
yeah.
and be able to take on more initiatives
And
as
you got a big audience there in Toronto.
exactly. Yeah, it's so true. And something else actually exciting, that we also try to promote events that either other chapters are doing, such as those Zoom online support meetings, but also events that the Concussion Legacy Foundation is putting on. For example, in February 7th and 8th, we had at Ryerson, actually, the Concussion Legacy Foundation hosted a massive Brains and Brawn event, it was called. So it was a 24-hour design challenge as well as a symposium. So we went to that as well. Jeff was there too. It was an amazing event. I was really blown away. And they had medical doctors and physios and researchers from all sorts of like very high profile teams. Like they also, for example, they had a physio from the LA Clippers that came in
Oh,
from LA. But it was just like really insightful to hear all of their perspectives on concussion. So, yeah,
so
it's just great.
does Ryerson have its own chapter, or is there just use the facilities at Ryerson?
Yeah, so they were just using the facilities there at that point. Although I do believe that I wasn't very involved in the design challenge because
Yeah,
I'm not in the
yeah,
technology field, but
yeah.
I do believe there was an affiliation with the from the tech side, like from the hackathon side of the Brains and Brawn event. They were affiliated with Ryerson, but from what I was told, Ryerson is wanting to start their own chapter now as well. So potentially like the chapter at the University of Toronto and the Ryerson chapter, once they've started, maybe we can collaborate, being that we're so close together, right, in
Yeah.
downtown.
You guys are just next door. I know U of T a bit. I know where it is. I know it's all over Toronto, but Ryerson I know is down like Young and
Young Dundas.
Young. Oh, it's right down. I know that they're that deep. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You
they're
guys are
really
you guys are. I know like Bloor and like
university.
Avenue, but that's
Abbey
or is that
Road,
the
yeah.
west? Is that the west side or?
Yeah, well, we also go like pretty south too, so College and university
See,
is
college makes sense. That's the pursuit I was forgetting.
yeah, and then but we even go it's crazy like the physical therapy school is even south of college
Oh yeah.
like yeah, actually significantly south of college. So yeah, you're right. We're spread out everywhere.
Yeah, that's good though. So, did you? This has been a very informative thing, and hopefully you'll get some more. I know, and now it's a tough time to do any recruiting for anything, especially for anything health related. It's a difficult time to find anybody to really want to join that. That's not the one does to hear many more health challenges. But did you have anything else you wanted to like to let people in Toronto or U of T or just in general know about U of T Concussion Legacy Foundation or concussions in general?
Yeah, so something else that I would say is that it's just really important to take care of your mental health and general well-being through these tough times, especially. But another thing is that you should always take your health seriously. For example, like if you go out for a run right now or something and you end up hitting your head in some way or you feel that you might be concussed, I think a lot of people would probably be inclined to not go see a doctor right now given the
Right. Yeah.
circumstances.
That's the
But I
point.
think
Yeah.
that and for example, I saw I've been reading up articles and stats right now, and they have a lot less hospital visits for
Yeah.
other illnesses, like for example, like illnesses. Not as many
Yeah.
people are checking into the hospital for things like that
And the
because they're afraid
non-emergency
to get.
procedures are canceled and stuff.
Yeah, and of
Yeah.
course, I completely understand that, but at the same time, as you've seen with, yourself and
Yeah.
others in my chapter as well, the concussion symptoms can
Accidents
be,
do happen. Yeah.
yeah, and they can happen, and they can stay for years on end.
Yeah.
So I think it's always important to be better safe than sorry. I'm a strong advocate for, take if you don't know if your situation is serious or not, just take it seriously anyway because you'll thank yourself in the future. So, I just think that you should always, always self-analyze. If you have had some type of accident, you should just, if you even feel any symptoms at all or feel anything out of the ordinary, I think it is always best to seek medical help.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So, hopefully people will hear this and want to get involved whatever way they can. But so, how can they find U of T concussion? Either say when you eventually can't go out and go places more freely, or
Yeah.
online.
You mean like how they can get in touch with us?
Either way, yeah, online or if they actually go out and find you. But I mean that's probably not so
For
insane.
sure. So, yeah, so our Facebook page is called Team Up Against Concussions U of T. So, they can get in touch with us on Facebook there. On Instagram, we are on Instagram at U of T Concussion Legacy. And then they're always welcome to reach out to us. We are always happy to do presentations. And we would also be very happy to do Zoom presentations if that's something that somebody is interested in. They can also email us at teamuptoronto@concussionfoundation.ca. And you know what, we're always, whether or not you're interested in a presentation, we're also just happy to chat or we can't obviously offer medical advice because we aren't medical professionals ourselves,
No,
but we are always happy to offer support or connect you with other people that may be going through the same thing you are, and hopefully we can reduce concussions, but also,
educate.
increase
Yeah.
understanding and support that people who do have concussions can get.
And finally, actually, we talked a lot about. I know I brought up really the high schools, schools in general. But who
Yeah.
else did you present to? The schools and camps. Did you present to?
Yeah, so sports teams are also so specifically like again it's too bad a lot of stuff was in the works that didn't end up happening,
Yeah.
but some of our members are like very accomplished in their sport, so like say soccer or hockey or something. So then we were planning on going to like a rep soccer practice and do a presentation for them, or stuff like that. I've also done like at certain private schools as well. They have very specific kind of streamlined sporting
Right.
programs
Yeah.
for students that are potentially maybe they'll be going into like professional sports. So it's always really interesting to do presentations for them as well because they have a very different perspective than the average person, given that they've been so integrated in like the sports world for
Yeah.
their entire life.
Yeah.
And especially with respect to that kind of mentality that people have in sports that they just want to tough it out and everything.
Yeah.
I find students like that can really identify with that because they've kind of been living that for much of their life. And so in those situations, I think it's even more important to explain to them that you shouldn't tough it out just because you want to impress your coach or just because you want to get the scholarship or something. You just have to prioritize like the longevity of your life, and your overall well-being is so much more important than
Yeah.
something like that. So that's something I really try to hone in on presentations like that.
I think that's great. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for recommending this podcast, and hopefully people are listening to this and are interested in getting involved with whoever you can get involved with Concussion Lakes Foundation or any concussion support group. Zoom meetings are available, as you said, Mondays and Fridays.
So
At
yeah, Mondays and Fridays is the brain health Zoom meeting that they're holding with the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and then McGill is the one that is a separate thing. So
which is
McGill is
on
doing
which
the
is on
support group.
which I went to one on Thursdays, but I also do one on Tuesday nights and I believe Saturdays. But again, visit McGill Concussion. It's called CLF McGill or McGill. McGill,
Yeah,
look
and
up McGill.
they're also welcome to get in if somebody wants to get in touch with us
Yeah,
via Facebook, Instagram, or email. I'd be happy to get them in touch with McGill as well if that's something that they're interested in. So I've only heard great things about it, so I think
great,
that's a great opportunity.
great. Well, yeah. So hopefully people reach out to U of T people in Toronto and reach out to you guys too, and you can build something, educate people, and raise awareness of another important health issue. So
I I totally agree. Thank you so much for having us, and it was wonderful meeting you, Nick.
thank you so much.
Happy Easter.
You too. Visit Team Up Against Concussions U of T on Facebook and U of T Concussion Legacy on Instagram. And please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Concussion Talk or visit my website at concussiontalk.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to be listening in soon. The music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.